everyone, we're going to find the inverse of the following functions. So we'll get started. For A, we're going to change our f of x to y, and just do that first. Interchange your x with your y, and you're going to get x equals 2y plus 1 divided by y minus 3. That is your inverse. Now we're going to make y the subject by cross multiplying. So as you cross this up here, you're going to get xy minus 3x equals 2y plus 1. Now since we want to solve for y, let's group our y's together and put them on the left-hand side. And I'm going to move the x on the right-hand side. All right, factor out the y. And then divide both sides by x minus 2. Now, state the domain for this. We do have a restriction, so x is all real numbers minus our 2, because we can't have 2 in the domain. All right, continuing on, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to write y equals square root of 2x plus 8. Interchange your x with your y. So you get x equals square root of 2y plus 8. Now that's your inverse. We're going to make y the subject. So what I'm going to do is square both sides. You get x squared equals 2y plus 8. Just squaring both sides. And solve for y, you're going to get x squared minus 8 equals 2y. So y equals x squared minus 8 divided by 2. And this is going to be, for this one, we're going to have x is, let's go ahead and write this as an inverse too. X is going to be greater than or equal to 0. All right. Now for the next one, this one's the hard one. So you write y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. All right. Interchange your x and your y's. And to solve for y, we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. And so for some of you, this will be a little different, but we set this to 0 by subtracting x from both sides. So when you do your quadratic formula, this is going to be your c part. So your a is 1, your b is negative 3, and your c is going to equal 2 minus x. So using the quadratic formula, and we're solving for y, you get y equals negative b, so that's going to be 3, plus or minus square root of negative 3 squared is 9, minus 4, a is 1, so we need to write that, times c, divided by 2a. So that's just 2. All right. So simplifying this, we're going to get y equals 3 plus or minus square root of 9 minus 8 plus 4x divided by 2. Which gives us 3 plus or minus square root of 4x plus 1 divided by 2. Now, the thing we have to check for this, for the domain, is this part. This has to be greater than or equal to 0. It can't be less than 0 because we're dealing with all real numbers. So just set that little portion there to be greater than or equal to 0. So our answer would be for x is greater than or equal to -1, or x is greater than or equal to -1/4. So that's your domain for this. And this is your inverse. Right there. All right. Now the next one. Let's see. So for the next one, we have this problem here. So we're going to let y equal e to the 2x, which is actually x squared, plus e squared plus 1. Let me make sure that's e squared and I didn't type it wrong. So let's see. Let's set 2. Yeah, this should be x. Sorry about that. So that should be an x. All right. Now, interchange your x and your y. So you get x equals e to the y power squared plus e to the y power plus 1. Again, we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to set this to 0, and we have e y squared plus e to the y plus 1 minus x. So this part is your c part. So you have a equals 1, and we're letting that be our base there. B equals 1, and c equals 1 minus x. So using our quadratic formula, we get e to the y power equals -1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So this is e to the y power equals -1 plus or minus 1 minus 4 plus 4x divided by 2. Simplifying further, that gives you e to the y power equals -1 plus or minus square root of 4x minus 3 divided by 2. Now we're going to have to solve for y. And so we're going to take, since we have an e here, we're going to take ln of both sides. That means we're going to discard the negative. We can't have a negative log. So we're only going to use the positive there. So when, sorry about that. When you take the log of both sides, you're going to have ln of e to the y equals ln of -1 plus square root of 4x minus 3 divided by 2. All right, so move this down here. Ln of e is just 1. So you get y equals ln of -1 plus square root of 4x minus 3 divided by 2. Now, for natural logs, we can't have ln of 0, so ln of 1 is 0. We can't have this to be 0. It has to be greater than 0. So we're going to write my numerator. We can still keep our denominator here, but my numerator has to be greater than 0. So add 1 to both sides. Square both sides. Add 3 to both sides. And divide both sides by 4. So x has to be greater than 1. And again, this is your inverse. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.